Uh, Hello, everybody. My name is Sean Dooley. I am the Senior Advisor for Public Relations at BirdLife Australia, but for the sake of the Aussie Bird Count, you can call me the Chief Bird Nerd. That's the official title. It's bestowed upon, handed down by the High Priest of Birding, just for this week, this period. We might just hang on for a little while so other people can join us. I can see that we have 95 people there. So if you want to talk among yourselves, make yourself comfortable, strap yourself in for the exciting world of the Aussie Bird Count. We'll get going in about a minute or so. So if you want to grab a drink or something to be part of the convivial atmosphere that is the Aussie Bird Count, then do so, and we'll start in maybe 1 minute. My drink, I swear, is water. It's not vodka. Okay, we're still having people join us. I can see we're up to 113 people. 14. Okay, I think we might get started and the latecomers will pick up pretty quickly. So yes, welcome everybody to this webinar on everything about the Aussie Bird Count. We're very excited to be hosting the Aussie Bird Count for the 12th year in a row, and it's one of our favourite events throughout the year, and it's had such support from all of you over the years that we're exceptionally excited again this year. My name is Sean Dooley. I'm the Senior Advisor for Public Relations at BirdLife Australia, as I said, and I'm known during this month as the Chief Bird Nerd of the Aussie Bird Count. So I'm here. Welcome, nerds and nerdettes. It's great to be here. Actually, that is not really accurate anymore. There are way too many cool people who are getting into bird watching now, and for us original nerds, it's almost intimidating how cool you bird watchers are these days. I'm coming to you from the lands of the Boonwurrung people, which was never ceded. It is the beautiful part of Melbourne, stretching all the way across the Mornington Peninsula, across Phillip Island, Western Port Bay, down to Wilson's Promontory, an incredible area of natural beauty. And I want to acknowledge the Boonwurrung people for the stewardship of their land. They, when Europeans arrived, they had created a balance that provided homes to well over 200 species of birds. Unfortunately, in the last 200 years or so, we've managed to reduce a lot of those species in terms of number and also the variety, but we still have a great connection with our native birds in Australia. We still have enough birds that have survived. They're pretty resilient, a lot of Australian birds, and they occur in the places where we live. And this is sort of one of the reasons that we've started the Aussie Bird Count, is that we want to know about those birds that still survive in the areas where people live, the birds that you see every day, because that's always something really important for us to know. Australia, BirdLife Australia is Australia's only national bird conservation organisation. We actually came from predecessor organisations that were founded back in 1901. And today we have over 430,000 supporters who help us with the Aussie Bird Count, with our regular monitoring programs, volunteering in our branches, supporting our campaigns and donating to our work to continue to prevent extinctions of Australian birds. But the Aussie Bird Count is in a time when 1 in 6 birds is faced with the threat of extinction. The Aussie Bird Count is in some ways as much looking at the common birds and to see how we can keep those birds common. But underpinning all of our work at BirdLife Australia is data, science and data. And we need that data through our monitoring programs, to know which birds are doing well and which birds are in trouble and need our attention. And when you look at all of Australia's threatened species, many of them were really once common, often not that long ago. One of the most critically endangered birds in Australia, with fewer than 300 left, is the Regent honeyeater. And just 70 years ago, they were considered still to be quite common, and large flocks would come into towns like Bendigo or Dubbo or anywhere in between, Warwick in Queensland. They were even in Adelaide, and they would come into town in quite large numbers and then disappear for a while. And it wasn't until BirdLife Australia started doing national monitoring of our birds that we realised that when the birds were disappearing and not returning to places like Bendigo or Adelaide or Warwick in Queensland, was only with that national input of people across the country sharing with us what they were seeing, that we realised that regent honeyeaters weren't just going somewhere else, they were actually disappearing off the face of the earth. And that's when we began to worry about them and start to put conservation plans into action. And BirdLife Australia, that's kind of our reason for existence, but we also need to know what's going on with our common birds. So one of the reasons we started the Aussie Bird Count was to help us get this annual snapshot of how our common birds are faring. And year upon year, the more people who do a count, it's like every count is one pixel in that enormous picture. And the more pixels we have, the clearer the vision we will have. And now we have 11 years of data that we can refer to and compare year upon year and see what trends are happening. So last year we had 57,000 people from around the country that got involved in the Aussie Bird Count, and together we counted 4.1 million birds. This year we have already doubled the rate of people registering. So perhaps that's you and you're coming to find what it's all about if you're here for the first time. And we're really, really excited that we're going to get many more people involved this year and break through for the first time the 5 million birds counted in one Aussie Bird Count. So the reason we count, why do we do the Aussie Bird Count? Well, as I said, it creates a snapshot for Australia's common birds, the birds that we share our environment with every day, the birds in our cities and towns and farms. We welcome people doing bird counts, Aussie bird counts in the middle of national parks or out on the ocean, wherever you are during that week of October 20 to 26. We want to know what you're seeing. But it really, that most people are going to be doing it in the places they live or spend their day-to-day business. And that knowledge base we get from that is invaluable to us. It also is a way for us to introduce you into the citizen science work that we do at BirdLife Australia. We have many volunteer programs working on threatened species, and monitoring and repeat monitoring is key to a lot of our work. And a lot of that is done through our bird data monitoring system, which is, you do need a little bit of expertise in terms of you need to identify the birds that you're looking at. So this is, we regard this as a little gateway drug to regular monitoring and citizen science. And so we've tried to make the Aussie Bird Count as simple to use so that you don't have to be a full-on bird nerd, a bird expert or a scientist to use it. So the app, the Aussie Bird Count app, which you will download when you register for the, if you can either go to aussiebirdcount.org.au to register, and then that will give you instructions on how to download the Aussie Bird Count app, or you can go download the app from wherever you get your apps from, and then that you'll be able to register through the app, I believe. But it means you can get involved in citizen science at a fundamental level in the places where you live. It helps, the Aussie Bird Count itself helps our research, but it also means if you start to regularly monitor, like a lot of people when they do the Aussie Bird Count say they love it so much that they wish they could do it all year. Well, you can. Through bird data, you can continue to do your bird surveys, and that helps with all of our programs. But the other thing we found, and this has been a really strong reaction, is that people love doing the Aussie Bird Count. At the end of it, people are kind of almost in grief because they have to wait another 11 months and 3 weeks before they can do it again. And I have to say, like, I have spent my life bird watching and doing bird surveys, but there is something really lovely about doing the Aussie Bird Count, because what it requires you to do, and we're going to find out how to do the count, but it requires you to just be in the one spot really for 20 minutes. And as someone who's always going off and chasing birds, it was a revelation the first year we did the Aussie Bird Count in 2014, because I'd be sitting in my backyard for 20 minutes and connecting to the rhythms of nature that were going on. And it was incredible. I've looked out in my backyard every day since I'd lived here. But just that 20 minutes, you would see different birds move in and interact with other birds and then move off, and others would come in. I found it personally really a great connection and feeling part of something bigger going on in my neighborhood, and found a lot of people report that they get a real sense of calm and happiness out of doing it. And people often do it with their kids or their grandkids or friends, and that kind of communal effort and just sharing that moment, that 20-minute moment, is something really special. So what we've promised for this webinar is that we would talk about the Aussie Bird Count, but also give you some tips on how to start identifying birds if you've never been bird watching before. Now, it seems like I'll actually try and pull one out. Traditionally, if you were a bird watcher or wanted to get into birds, you might get a field guide. And this field guide published by CSIRO is the most recently published field guide, and that's absolutely excellent. But then if you look at this, it's like, for those of you who remember, it's bigger than the phone book. It's like a house brick, because there's over 930 different birds here. And say you see a bird in your garden and you've heard of these things called honey eaters, and you're to pick up a field guide, as good as it is, you open the page and there are page after page of birds called honey eaters. Like, these are still honey eaters 10 pages on. There's 75 to choose from. So it can get really daunting, and that tends to put people off. But what we try and do with the Aussie Bird Count app is make it simple and bring it back to basics. And these are the basics. When you're looking at birds, one of the things I do is, everybody does know a bird, and I always use what we call the standard bird unit, well, what I call the standard bird unit, because when you're trying to identify birds, you're actually looking at differences, and you need to know at least one bird so that you can start comparing what the differences are. So everyone might know, for instance, a swan or a gull, a silver gull, but you might not know the type of gull, or a magpie or a black cockatoo, or even a galah. So a lot of people, you'll be surprised how many birds you actually already know without ever considering yourself a bird watcher. And then and once you have that basic unit of a bird, you start to look for differences. And the key differences between birds that you're looking for, there's 5 things. There's the size and shape, there's the plumage, like the colours and where the colours are on the bird. There is behaviour, there's the sound they make, and there's also the location. That can often be a really important thing, as we're going to see a bit later when it comes to ravens and crows. So as I said, you're comparing just to that basic unit. So say your basic unit is the magpie. You look at the size and shape, and we have several birds that are in the same family as the magpie or look similar to the magpies. So you're looking at the size and shape. You might see a bird that is similar to a magpie but not quite right, and it might be because it has a very long, much bigger bill. So you're already on to, okay, is this bill larger or smaller than a magpie? Is it more curved, or is it stumpier? And you can start to look there, and the app hopefully will help you find those birds. Also, you look at colour. So this same bird that I'm thinking of that might look like a magpie actually has a lot more black, and only has patches of white, not sort of here on the back. It's got patches of white in the wing and the tail, but not all the way across. So you can start looking for those differences and trying to find out what bird has those. Then you can look for things like behaviour. That can be really important for a lot of birds. And even for very similar looking species can behave in a different manner. One of the trickiest groups of birds in Australia to try and identify are the thornbills. There are a bunch of small brown birds, little brown jobs, as we tend to call them in the bird watching world. And I don't know if you can see this, like, here's a page of some of the thornbills, and I know it's a bit out of focus, but that's what they look like in the wild. They're all moving about too. So you're trying to pick the little subtle differences between these little brown birds can be really difficult. But one thing that can help you is the behaviour that they're having. And for instance, in Eastern Australia, there are 2 common thornbills, the brown thornbill, which is found in a wide range of habitat, and the striated thornbill, which is found more in taller forests, and some sort of taller woodlands as well. And they do occur together, and they can be pretty tricky to tell. There's plumage differences. The colours are slightly different, but essentially they're, roughly little brown birds in the trees. But if you notice where those birds are occurring, where they're feeding, that can help you if you take notice. For instance, the brown thornbill occurs in a range of habitats from salt marsh all the way to rainforest, but it tends to stay in towards the ground or the mid-story. I mean, it's usually not hopping around on the ground, but it can sometimes get very low. And it can also move up the tree, but it tends to be in that mid canopy area or in a bushy sort of setting, whereas the striated thornbill, it does move up and down, but generally it's in the tops of the foliage. So it's in the trees, and if the branches are low, it will be in those, but they tend to stick to the branches and to the leaves on those branches where they're gleaning insects. And if you start to pick up on those different behavioral clues, when you see those little brown birds in the forest, if they're all sitting up there and not really coming down the tree, not coming down the trunk, and not coming down into the lower bushes, chances are they're likely to be striated thornbills compared to brown thornbills, which will come down closer. Not always, but but it's a good indication. And voice is another good way to tell them. And this example of the thornbills is really an excellent way to tell them, because if you're seeing these little brown birds and maybe you think there's two species and they're both moving around in the canopy, the striated thornbill, once you can learn that call, it has a very thin insect-like zit zit sort of call, whereas the brown thornbill has a much richer, melodious sort of warble, as well as a lot of sort of harsher scolding sounds. So once you begin to be familiar with calls, that can be every bit as good a way to identify birds as the way they look. Often it's just as distinctive. In fact, we have birds in Australia called wedgebills, and they're both desert birds, the chiming wedgebill and the chirruping wedgebill. And the only way you can really tell them, unless you're holding them in the hand, is the way they sound. The chirruping wedgebill of the eastern deserts is much more of, sort of sounds like the chirp of a sparrow, whereas the song of the chiming wedgebill of the western deserts is this repeated, very high-pitched melodic, sort of quite a really nice sounding song, an actual song. So that can be definitely the easiest way to tell those birds apart. The other way you can tell is location, and the wedgebills are the perfect example. If you are in the Pilbara in Western Australia and you see a wedgebill, you know 100% it's the chiming wedgebill. If you're in Broken Hill and you see a wedgebill, you definitely know it's going to be a chirruping wedgebill. So it's location can be just as good an example. And when you're doing your Aussie bird count, as we'll see in a minute, when you actually input the data, and if you put a bird that's found, if you're in Tasmania and you put a bird that's found in Western Australia, it will say to you, this bird is not usually found in your region. So that's a good moment to stop and think, well, maybe I should look and see what the other options are. So what you can do before you start, you can always work out what your local birds are. The Aussie Bird Count app will help, but if you wanted to go into bird data, that has lists of local birds if you type in a certain area. So if you use filters like your local government area and then check the reporting rates, it will show you what birds have been seen by expert bird watchers in your area, and it'll also give you their reporting rates. So the ones that are higher are the ones that are more common. And then if you're looking to practice your bird calls, learning your bird calls, then you can go to the bird profiles on the BirdLife Australia website. A lot of those profiles have calls. There's online resources. Xenocanto, that's Xenocanto, 2 words. That is an amazing crowdsourced repository of bird calls from around the world. There's also other great websites with bird calls. Graham Chapman's website is a particularly good one that you could use. And also at BirdLife Australia, our own Urban Birds team have created a list of the most common songs to hear in your backyard, and you can listen to them if you go to our website and listen online to those calls as well. And remember, when you're doing a count, to always think about the ethics of the way you're doing bird watching. And that includes things like you want the birds to actually be there. So you need to be quiet and you need to try not to disturb them, try not to chase them, let them come to you. And the bird count gives you the perfect opportunity to sit there and just be part of nature and not impose upon it. There are lots of other things. So walk slowly, speak quietly, no rapid pointing and shouting. I know it gets very tempting when you see oh my God, it's a rosella, and that off the rosella goes, never to be seen again. We really recommend that you don't use spotlights if possible, or if you're going to use them, put a filter over the spotlight, like a red filter, which is less damaging to the bird's eyes. And also, we want your sightings, but we don't want them to come at the expense of the bird's welfare. So don't go in blundering. If you can see a bird, don't go in smashing its habitat, breaking branches, trying to find that bird. As you said, as I said, if you're quiet, it should come back out to you. We want to respect the birds that we're looking at, and also respect other people. As tempting as it might be, if the birds are all flying into somebody else's property and you don't have permission, please, no trespassing in the name of the Aussie Bird Count. We can't afford the lawsuits apart from anything else. So let's get started into how to count, to use the actual bird count. So we're going to share this. Oh, I haven't done the video, have I, Zoe? It's should I do that? Okay, so part of the resources that we have, we do have, as part of the Aussie Bird Count resources, which you can click on the Aussie Bird Count website on the BirdLife YouTube page. We've done a series of videos of some commonly mistaken birds. Now, I was talking about this before. Here's an example of one. It's about a 3-minute video of how to identify ravens and crows. So Zoe, my kind helper, if you can take that away.
The raven himself is hoarse that croaks the fatal entrance of Duncan under my battlements. Or was it a crow? In Australia, we have 5 species of ravens and crows. The difference between a raven and crow, it's pretty minimal. They're very hard to tell apart. To be honest, really, it's just the colour of the down at the base of the feathers. It's white in a crow and brown in a raven. So unless you actually catch one and blow on it, you're not really going to know the difference. But there is a simple trick to knowing which raven or crow you're seeing. If you live in a capital city, it's very basic because every capital city only has one species. So if you're in Perth, Canberra or Sydney, chances are you're seeing an Australian raven. If you're in Melbourne and Adelaide, it's a little raven. And a little raven is basically only 1 centimetre shorter than an Australian raven. So don't worry, get hung up about the little term. They look basically the same size. If you're in Hobart, it's a forest raven. And if you're in Darwin or Brisbane, it is a Teresian crow. Now, if you're in areas, say, like Alice Springs, which gets both Teresian crows and little crows, or somewhere, say, the north coast of New South Wales, where you can get all 5 species of ravens and crows, there is another easy way to tell, and that's the call that they make. That standard caw of the raven is slightly different with all the species. The Australian raven is the highest pitched, actually, but in some ways the loudest, and it's got that 3 note. You would probably know that call. It's like it's getting surprised, asking itself a question and giving itself the answer. The little raven is much more sort of regular. It doesn't draw out its call nearly as much, and it's a bit deeper in tone and pitch than the Australian raven. The forest raven, which is the biggest of them all, it's actually got the deepest and slowest call, a very, very resonant, deep call. Now, the crows are a little bit flatter in their call, and they often call a bit quicker. The Teresian crow, in some ways, can be quite variable, but it reminds me, it has more of a quacking quality than a cawing quality. And the little crow, which you only find in the really dry parts of Australia, has a very flat and nasal sort of call, almost like it's doing a call with an American accent.
Yes, so there we go. I don't know who that was, but you will notice that was done during lockdown, where I hadn't actually been to a barber for several months. So there's those sort of resources that you can use for a lot of the common birds that you might be wondering about. So we're going to go through how you do a count now. So I think we'll share the screen here again. So this is how to do it. So first of all, make sure you've downloaded the latest version. It's been updated just this week. It's a free app through Apple Store or Google Play. And then once you've done that, you basically set aside 20 minutes between the 20th of October and the 26th of October. And you just need to spend 20 minutes in the one spot. We really would prefer you didn't go on a major hike in that 20 minutes. We want to get the location as accurate as possible, but you're allowed to walk around the area that you're surveying. You don't have to be rooted to the one spot, but it does help us if you're not moving too far in the area that you're counting. And also sometimes people seem to just go and do a bird count through the whole week and then send us everything they saw in the bird count in just one count. And that's actually not useful to us at all, because it just doesn't help us with working out the numbers and where you actually were. We really want to find out where you were in that 20 minutes. And you can count anywhere. You can count at home. You can count in your school. We have lots of schools involved. If you're not a school student, I'd suggest not doing a bird count at a school during school hours. It's not ideal for someone to be wandering around, especially if you have binoculars around a school during school hours. But you can do a park. We've had people do bird counts out from their office window. It doesn't matter wherever you are that week. We want to find out what birds you're seeing. So once you've set aside that 20 minutes, and also you don't have to do just one. You can do as many counts throughout the week as possible. The more counts, the merrier. It can be in the same spot, but it can be in different locations as well. When we're doing the data analysis, we'll have that there, that if you've done the same survey in the same area, we'll be able to use that in our future analysis. So don't worry about repeating a survey every day. But if you've got areas in your neighbourhood or you're in different places during the week, we'd love to get more than one count from you. It kind of gets addictive, so be warned. Especially the way it shows you your data. Like you start to go, okay, I've got a lot of noisy miners. Can I get rainbow lorikeets ahead? Well, that's the way my brain works anyway. Okay, so the next slide is we're going to show you how to count. And I'm going to do a count from my office room here in the Boonwurrung country in Melbourne. So I'm going to join in along with you. And the thing about it, the app is open and you can actually start your counting now. However, we do have a cutoff. And so basically any surveys that are done before October 20 won't get included in the actual count for the Aussie Bird Count. But you're welcome to do them now as practice and get used to it. So when you prepare to count, so you grab your phone, you head outdoors, or you don't have to be outdoors. You can be like I am and looking out the window here, seeing what passes. And hopefully I'll get something in the next 20 minutes as we talk. So then you just tap the Let's Get Started button and it goes through to your details. Now, I'm already logged in, but the first time you do it, it will ask you what type of bird watcher you are. And it doesn't mean, whether you're handsome or chilled or whatever. It's actually asking if you're not new to bird watching, intermediate or advanced. It just helps us in working out who's getting involved in the surveys. So I've put advanced because I've been doing this. This will be my 12th Aussie Bird Count. So hopefully I finally know something. Then after you've done that, you press choose your location. And once you press that green button and for choose your location, it will take you to find your location. Now, if you have your location services on, it will drop a red pin where your computer thinks you are, where your phone thinks you are. If it's inaccurate, you can just take that pin. It's a bit difficult to work out here. You can take the pin and move it and adjust it to exactly where you are. And if you don't have your location services on, you can just move the pin across your phone to where you actually are standing. So you do that and then select next. You can also type in the address and it will go to that spot as well. So it says your time starts now. And once you press this, that you've got 20 minutes. The timer is down the bottom here. And then now we're ready to go. And remember, at any time, if you need to pause your count, you can just press stop and then you can continue counting when you're ready to do it. So once you've pressed yes, you look in the trees, look on the ground, or in the water, or out to sea, or really anywhere, and you'll start seeing birds. Now, there's 3 ways that you can find a bird when you're using the app. The first way is that you can search. Once you press the search bar, common birds in your area will pop up and you can just tick those and it will go. Or if you know the name of the bird already, just start typing the name and it will come up. Or if you don't know what the bird is you're seeing, you can use the Find a Bird tool. So we'll go through each of those now. So the first way is you find a list of common birds. So, okay, so I can see there's a magpie out my window, and what do you know? That's actually the first thing that pops up on my phone. And so now I've just pressed it. The second way is that if you knew the name of that bird, you can type in magpie. Its correct name is Australian magpie, but the app is set up, if you type in magpie, it's going to give you every bird that has magpie in the name. So you can see here, I've got magpie goose, magpie lark, or Australian magpie. So I can make that choice there. The third way is that if you don't know what the bird is, you can use the Find a Bird tool, which is the green button there. So you press that, and then once you have, and as the tip says, you can press stop so that you're not wasting your precious 20 minutes while you try and work out what the bird is. And so you've got 3 options. You can select the size and the shape and the color of those birds according to what your perception is. And once you've done that, so say I was seeing the magpie, I'm going to say the shape is, it looks like medium to large, e.g. a raven. Yeah, that's about right. The color is going to be, sorry, that was the size. Now the shape is, and if I look here, it's, you scroll down, there's a whole lot of options. And basically the best match is the silhouette that says heavy set. And then you can put the colors in, and I'm going to put my black and white colors in, and then I press done, and the first bird that comes up is the magpie. Perhaps that's too easy an example. This is not a foolproof system. It's just a way of helping you look at the birds. And what will happen is when you press those 3 things and put done, you can then scroll through and it will give you some options of what birds may be the ones that you're looking at. As I said, it's not foolproof, but it really narrows down the field of what you can see. So then you can go back and add in that bird. So once you click on that you think it's an Australian magpie, you go and add it in and you record the number. Now the number is there. It will start with 1, which is a really handy feature. I know of no other app like this that gives you 1. You always have to enter a number to start with. So often we'll just see 1 bird. So you start there. If you've seen 2, you just press the plus button. Or if you see 22 and you don't want to press the plus button 21 more times, you press the little the sort of quill pen icon, and then you can add the actual number that you've seen. and then press OK, and you're in. Now I've got 22 Australian magpies on my list. If you've entered the wrong bird or too many birds, you can start reducing it by pressing the subtraction sign. And if you keep pressing the subtraction sign all the way to 0, it will ask, something will pop up asking you whether you want to remove that bird from your list. So if you do, you press yes. If you still want to include one or whatever, you press no. So it's all pretty straightforward there. Then you keep counting for 20 minutes, adding every bird that you see. And then if you see another magpie come by and you know it's a different magpie, you'll add that one in as well. And then any other species that pops up, you can add in and continue adding the numbers. When the time's up, the timer will freeze, but you can still keep adding. Because sometimes if you've got a lot of birds, you're still typing them in. So you can still keep adding, but the actual time will have frozen. So try not to add anything after that 20 minutes. And as is always the way, when you do a survey, as soon as you finish the survey, you'll see a yellow-tailed black cockatoo fly over that wasn't there the 20 minutes before. It can be terribly frustrating, but there's nothing to stop you from doing another 20-minute count straight away if you want to include that to add more flavour to your sightings. So once you've got the 20 minutes, it will say it will say time's up. Then you press OK. And then it allows you to review your checklist. And at this stage, you can add and subtract birds. You can add and subtract numbers. And then when you're ready, you press next. And then you can submit your checklist. And you just make sure the time is correct. And then you add the number of observers if you're doing it with the family or with a friend, or even a whole group. When you are doing a group survey, we only want one checklist submitted, because if there's, say you're going with a bunch of friends and there's 10 of you and you all add 10 lists, then we will think that somebody, and say you saw a pelican, instead of seeing one pelican, it will get added as 10. So if you're in a group, nominate someone to be the one to submit the checklist, and they can share that list with you afterwards, because once you press submit checklist, you'll get a thank you and a notification that you will receive an email with the count that you've done. So you can go and check your email that you've registered with to check that you got the count right. And I have to admit, I do this quite a bit, because even I make mistakes. I'll go back and go, oh, I forgot to put that little raven in. And so then I'll go to my checklist that's been the email that has my original checklist. And when you do that, you can go through and you can edit your checklist and add or subtract birds if you've made a mistake. Like you might not have noticed you put white-cheeked honeyeater when you meant to put white-eared honeyeater. But this way you can go back and fix it up. So when as they say in the movie business, we can fix that in post. So you can sanitize your sightings and make them more accurate. Is that where do we have any more slides? I think that's it. Oh yeah. And so there are other ways that you can help beyond the Aussie Bird Count. Obviously, this app is free. It's free to take part, but there are people that work all year making sure that the experience of the Aussie Bird Count and the way that we use the data is done as best as possible, and that costs money, as well as lots of our. But if you love Australia's birds, BirdLife Australia is the place to go to make sure that your donations will make a difference to helping save those birds. You can volunteer. You can get involved in a project, any number of projects. Just go to the BirdLife website or join a local BirdLife branch. We have 35 branches around the country in every state and territory now. And so there's always actually BirdLife. There's not a BirdLife branch in Canberra, but it is covered by, the ACT is covered by BirdLife Southern New South Wales and ACT. So you can support us on social media and share our stories of our work and our bird conservation, our love of birds. You can create a bird-friendly garden and ensure that next year you'll get more birds in your backyard bird survey for the Aussie Bird Count. If you're out and about, keep your dogs on leashes near birds, especially at the beach. Even if your dog isn't going to chase the birds, they don't know that. And when you've got beach nesting birds, they're going to try and get off the nest and lead your dog away from their vulnerable young and eggs. So even if your dog has no interest in hunting the birds, it's still going to have an impact and expose those vulnerable chicks to the heat and the cold and predators like gulls and ravens and things. And please, especially during beach nesting bird season, don't ever drive on beaches. And yeah, choose bird-friendly rodent control. We have a real problem in this country with the unregulated use of second-generation rodenticides. These are a bunch of products that basically I've been working in this space for 7 years now, and I can't even tell when I go down to any of the hardware chains, any of the supermarkets. It's so difficult to know which is the bad stuff, because the retailers are just putting it out there and they're not regulating how they sell it. They're not even separating it very well. So make sure you find out what rodent control is more bird friendly. And you can go to our page. I think it's on the Act for Birds page, the rat poisons page, which gives you a list of options for making sure that you're in trying to deal with your rat and mice problem. You're not actually killing birds like owls and frogmouths and black-shouldered kites that will eat rats and mice. And also, get in touch with your local MP and tell them that you want strong nature laws and good funding of nature-based programs, conservation programs. We've found at BirdLife Australia that taking our MPs out and on bird walks has been a fabulous way to get them to understand how passionate their community members are for birds, but also it's a numbers game. I was in a conversation recently at a conference with Peter Garrett, the former Environment Minister, and I asked him, what's the one thing that is going to cut through to politicians when it comes to making good environmental choices? And his answer was very short. He just said numbers. And there are so many lobby groups in Australia. There's so much business pressure and corporate interests that are applying pressure on the government. But if they think that enough people care about an issue, it's going to affect them at the ballot box, they'll start to do something about it. And we've had incredible volunteers contact our MPs, either writing to them or calling the local office in a friendly way, saying, we care about birds, we care about nature and strong nature laws to protect birds. And that is having an impact, and it will continue to have an impact. So there's some of the things that you can do to help BirdLife in its mission to prevent more extinctions of Australian birds. If you want to find out more about the Aussie Bird Count, go to aussiebirdcount.org.au, or you can reach us at birdweek@birdlife.org.au, and you can ask any questions you like about, and our team will hopefully answer them. Although hopefully tonight I've answered some of your fundamental questions. So, and of course, always check out the BirdLife Australia website, which is BirdLife at what is it again? I've kind of gone blank. It is BirdLife. How do I do it? birdlife.org.au. I was thinking of an email. Sorry, brain fade here. Yeah, so we've still got about 15 minutes left, I think, if people want to hang around. And if you want to put any questions into the Q&A section, we'll see what we can answer. And before we do that, in case I don't get a chance at the end and before you jump off, I'd really like to thank the team behind the scenes. Particularly, helping me today is Zoe Woodford. Zoe is our national events manager and has taken on the Aussie Bird Count this year and has done an incredible job in getting everything ready. And I'd just like to pay public tribute because she has been phenomenal getting all this together and getting tonight's webinar together. So thank you very much, Zoe. She probably won't want to put herself on screen, but I think you should, so we can all give her a virtual applause. And also, there she is, like I said, yeah, the idea of the bird nerd, we just have cool people these days getting involved in birds. Like, they don't get much cooler than Zoe. And also helping in the background tonight is our head of fundraising and many other areas, Nadia Watson. Nadia is new to BirdLife this year as well, and has just fitted in so well and been such a champion already for the organisation. So I won't get her to speak because she's actually lost her voice. That's how hard she goes for BirdLife. She has no voice left. She's been on the phones. This is my one. She's on the phones getting donors to come and see what we do, and just working so hard she's lost her voice. But I'd really like to thank the team. There's so many others that are helping us make this happen, including after the bird count, when you've done your surveys, we have a team behind the scenes of our best boffins who are dealing with the data, and we have staff and volunteers who vet the data to make sure that when we use it, it's of the highest quality and it is usable for our purposes down the track. So if you want to throw in any questions, I can see what you've got there. We've got the first question. Hopefully I might have answered. Can we submit multiple surveys, each from different locations? Absolutely. The more we want to know what birds you see in the week that you have. So we want to know about the birds where people are. So if you're in multiple locations, by all means do regular surveys. And it also means that when you get your own data, you can look on the app. It actually has information that I can't get it up here, but it actually has your it has stats, and you can look at your own stats. You can also look at the stats for your postcode or nationally to see how many people have been surveying, what birds they've been seeing. So it's really fascinating. And the more surveys you do in the more areas, when you get your emails and when you look at your own stats, you get that satisfaction of seeing an ever-increasing tally of both birds and of the species that you're seeing. So absolutely, please add something in. Somebody said they could not possibly download the app. That's okay. We do have another way. That's a great question. I meant to talk about this before. You don't need to use the app to do an Aussie bird count, but you do need to use a computer. You can register online and register through aussiebirdcount.org.au. And if you're out of range, or if you don't have a phone or don't want to use it on your phone, then you can go out and you can write down what you see and come back and then enter it into the system through the website. So you don't actually need to have a phone to do an Aussie bird count, which some people don't want to do. So that's pretty good. So hopefully that helps you, Judith, with that. But you will need a computer. We used to have an option where you could mail in your written Aussie bird count forms, but we just found that they were coming in dribs and drabs and holding up the vetting process while we received them with Australia Post getting less and less reliable. So we've just gone with computer and with the app. And the question about whether this will be recorded, it is being recorded. I think, yes, I can see the icon that says it's being recorded. So that at the moment, I think is that all the comments? Or if anyone has any other ID questions or anything like that, I can try and answer those. Otherwise, if we don't have any more coming through, we might wrap it up there. Looks like everybody's ready and raring to go.
Hi, Sean.
Yes,
there is a question here someone has about the little brown birds.
Oh,
or
excellent.
wishing we had a category for them. Still have problems with the little brown birds. They're so quick and can't even get a photo. They flit around in the bushes. We do have a video for that one, don't we, on the YouTube channel?
We do for a couple. We have one for brown thornbill and white-browed scrub wren, which are found on the mainland from Adelaide right through to Queensland. So in WA, you don't get brown thornbills, and the white-browed scrub wren is called the spotted scrub wren, although I think in the app we still have it as white-browed. But yes, so there is that. And yeah, the little brown birds can be tricky. And the thing is, if you can't identify everything, that's okay. Identify what you can, and we'll still welcome your surveys. When you're doing bird data surveys, there's much more capacity to put in sort of different types of birds without nailing down the ID exactly. So there'll be sort of, for instance, I'm trying to think, there'll be, wader species, or corella. If you don't know whether it's a long-billed or a little corella, you can just put corella species. Can't remember if we have that. I don't think we have that on the Aussie Bird Count app. But yeah, if you don't identify anything, that's okay. Just let us know what you can identify, and we'll be working at improving the Find a Bird as we go. It's still probably worth trying the Find a Bird, and it will throw up a whole lot of options, and then you can compare that against the common birds that might come up on the Aussie Bird Count app, or you can compare it by going to somewhere like Bird Data to seeing which of those birds in the options is seen in your area. You can filter it by local government area. I think or you can even draw a little polygon around your local area if you really want to narrow it down. And that has the wisdom of decades of other birdwatchers sightings that you can refer to. So that's actually something that I do quite often to see if I'm in a new area and I think, oh, is that species found here? You can go and you can just draw a little polygon and see whether it is regularly found there, and you're not being crazy after all.
Thanks, Sean. There was another question. I think maybe there's one more question in here. If I'm standing in my backyard and hear a call in the neighbour's yard, can I add this to my count if I feel confident about the call but don't actually see the bird?
Well, I'd say yes. I suppose we don't have, when we do a bird data survey, we have very strict categories of area, but this is really based on location. So any birds that you can see or hear from the spot you're in, then we say include them, because you're not always going to see every bird that calls. And we will, when we analyze things, for instance, our experts know that a bird like a coel, it can be a far-ranging call. So we can take that into account when we're doing any analysis on down the other side of things. That, okay, if a whole bunch of people in the same neighborhood, if your neighbor's doing a count, then maybe it'll be double counted. But there are still lots of gaps, and we want to get it to pretty much every second household in Australia is doing a count to give us that really clear picture of what we're seeing. Okay. So I finally realized that I have to go up to read the new posts and not down. There's a question about the better time to do a survey. Yeah, mornings are generally better, especially for bush and garden birds. They're more active and likely to be calling more, but we'll happily take a survey from any time of the day. If you're planning on doing surveys throughout the day, it might pay to be strategic to maximize your opportunity and the fun you get out of it. Maybe do your garden and bush surveys in the morning, and then in the middle of the day, often wetland surveys are good because the water birds don't really disappear, or some go into the reeds, but most of them will just be loafing about on the water in the middle of the day. So what else have we got here? We've talked about the ID on bird call. If you can identify the bird call, absolutely put it in, because as I said earlier, that bird song is often every bit as distinguishing for the species as the way it looks. The wedge bills being a classic example.
There's one more question, Sean, there.
Yep.
Can we contact state MPs about conservation of bird issues?
Oh, yes, definitely. In many instances, habitat destruction or things like recreational vehicle use is a state-based issue. State MPs are very, and local council too. Some councils can be terrific with their with their involvement in enhancing local bird populations and local habitat. And in fact, over the years, we've had dozens, like if not hundreds of councils working with us at BirdLife Australia, getting involved in the Aussie Bird Count app, either promoting it or in the past, we've given them a sort of data about what birds were seen in their LGA. And they're using that to talk to us and others about how they can enhance habitat in their parks and gardens and roadsides for birds. So this is an area where, we can have practical benefit from the fun that we get out of stuff like the Aussie Bird Count, because it can help inform management decisions. So absolutely get in touch. And we always say, BirdLife Australia is a non-partisan organisation. We don't favour any particular party over another. What we do is we favour positive outcomes for birds and the environment. So we're always willing to talk to any political party, any councillor, any member of any political persuasion, because the love of birds isn't a partisan thing. It's something that unites us all. And we're coming up to 7 o'clock. Probably let you go out. For those of you in daylight savings areas, there's still some time to get out and work out where you're going to do your counts, and maybe even do a practice count tonight. I'm kind of, I'm getting a bit edgy now. I'm thinking, I really want to get out and start counting. I can't wait for Monday. So I hope the weather is good next week when you're out and about counting. And I hope you really enjoy it. I've found it a fantastic experience. And if you are enjoying it, share it with your friends. See if they can get out there and do a count as well. You can even compete with them, say my garden's better than your garden for birds. So just get out there and have fun, everybody. And I hope you see lots and lots of good birds. And we'll see you out in the swamp or the garden or the beach or the park, wherever next week. Enjoy your counting, because every bird counts. Thanks very much, everyone.